So we've talked on the show a lot about the fact that people are wagging their finger at progressives who don't want to vote for a corporatist warmonger like Hillary Clinton, right? And we've also pointed out that it bothers us that she's not even trying to come get our votes. Like, if people are like, oh my God, what if Trump's president? I'm like, if Hillary Clinton was half as scared of it as you are, maybe she would come try to get my vote. But she's not. She's been going after Republican votes. We should be going after Republican donors. We just did a story about how she's going after Romney donors. And she's bragging about the 50 neocons who endorsed her, Henry Kissinger, John Negra frickin' Ponte. So we've talked about, and so there's that annoyance, I guess, or disappointment or disgust that she doesn't come try to get progressive votes. Instead, she's going to get neocon votes and promising them, you'll be happier with me than Donald Trump. There's another part to that we haven't thought about. In fact, who has thought about it is the guy named Michael Senato over at Observer Politics. He wrote a story entitled "Clinton Wants to Keep the Republican Majority in Congress." You're like, what? Come on. Why would she want to do that? Right? Well, he says Hillary Clinton's speech last week about the alt-right, remember that was a barn burner. Now, and think about what she did. This is what he's going to point out. Think about what she did. So she made the appeal that Donald Trump is a different kind of Republican and that regular Republicans should denounce him. Well, guess what that does? That now makes all the other Republicans okay. So now if you're in Congress and you're running against a Republican, you've got the top of the party, Hillary, saying they're okay. It's just Donald Trump and those guys. And that's what this person points out who wrote this column. Hillary Clinton's speech last week about the alt-right was the latest attempt by her campaign to win the right-wing establishment over and away from her competitor, Donald Trump. By distancing Trump from the Republican leadership, she can preserve the GOP majority in Congress and use them during her presidency to pass neoliberal legislation. Having already solidified support from the Democratic establishment, Clinton is using the D next to her name as a Trojan horse to push forth the elitist and corporate interests held by her vast network of wealthy donors from both parties.
I don't know. I think she's just snuggling up to my bank to get to me. You know? It's a typical chick, right? You know?
That's pretty typical. In her speech, Clinton referred to former Senator Bob Dole, former President George Bush, and John McCain, noting, quote, "We need that kind of leadership again. George W. Bush." Yeah, she said that. We need that kind of leadership again. What the F? She added that she was honored to receive support from Republicans.
Honored.
Honored. I remember when she was asked who she could she said her biggest enemies were Republicans. Now she's saying this. She added that she was honored to receive support from the Republicans while Clinton is aligning herself with the right. Clinton supporters in the media are also highlighting these ties in their defenses of her. Most Americans not named Bush or Clinton don't spend much time thinking about the plight of impoverished people with AIDS in developing countries whose lives depend on access to wildly expensive drugs, wrote Mark Joseph Stern in Slate. The piece was a lousy attempt to ignore the profound ethics violations and corruption allegations over how the Clinton Foundation raises money. So this is what the left is doing now. They're doing what the right used to do, or does. Now the left is doing it, is they're making excuses for blatant corruption. That's what they're pointing out. And on August 24th, Politico published an article claiming Clinton is teaming up with Speaker of the House Paul Ryan to combat poverty. Think of the implications of that. This is an attempt to suggest that Ryan prefers Hillary Clinton over Donald Trump, reflecting a campaign strategy even corrupt Democratic National Committee staff warned Clinton against in an email released by WikiLeaks. So this thing that she's doing, by normalizing guys like George W. Bush and Paul Ryan to Democrats and lefties, by saying those guys are good, and I'm honored to have their... You're screwing over your party. And you're screwing over the down-ticket people, the people that all your defenders said Bernie was screwing over. Hillary's screwing over on purpose. Because now how are you going to run against the Republican machine if Hillary says they're all great guys except for this Trump guy? So again, she's putting herself not only in front of the party, but in front of the country. She's right now, this is her putting herself before the party. And her own staff at the DNC warned her not to do this. In an email, the email reveals that the Clinton campaign intended to portray Paul Ryan as at odds with Trump in May. But the DNC staff resisted, believing it would hurt the Democratic Party's other candidates running for Congress around the country. Asking state parties to praise House Republicans like Paul Ryan would be damaging for the party down ballot, former DNC Communications Director Luis Miranda wrote to former DNC CEO Amy Dacey on May 16th, at which point Ryan had yet to endorse Trump. So when that letter was written, Paul Ryan hadn't yet endorsed Trump. Quote, we would basically have to throw out our entire frame that the GOP made Trump through the years of divisive and ugly politics. So that's what the Democrats' strategy is in this election, that this is what the Republicans' policy of divisiveness has given birth to, this Frankenstein, this Trump. You own it. That's the whole Democrats' message. Hillary Clinton wants to cut that off at the knees and say, no, these guys are okay. Trump's just an anomaly. It's all right. They don't even like him. They're okay. We would have to say that Republicans are reasonable and that the good ones will shun Trump. It just doesn't work from the party side. That's from the DNC communications director. Now with the comfortable lead over Trump, Clinton's campaign is employing this tactic to welcome defectors from the Republican Party despite the repercussions it could have for the rest of the Democrats. The DNC's recent fundraising efforts attest to this shift to focus the resources of the Democratic Party entirely on Clinton. So the DNC's all their focus is going to Hillary Clinton. Screw Congress, screw Republicans, because she doesn't need a Democratic Congress. She doesn't want a progressive Congress or Senate. She's perfectly okay with the Republicans that she can work with. Guys, she's honored to have their respect, their friendship. Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell, John Boehner, these are the guys she likes to work with. Thanks to a campaign finance loophole, wealthy donors who maxed out their contributions to Clinton campaign and the DNC directly are now funneling money to the DNC and Clinton campaign through state parties. A recent Bloomberg article noted that, quote, on average, 83% of the money that was sent from the state committees to the DNC in July originated with a donor who had already given the maximum $33,400 to the National Party. Under the pretenses of courting Republicans for the sole purpose of soliciting their wealthy donors to stop Trump, Clinton's campaign has pushed for money from former Bush and Romney donors. Despite the clash between these donors, their interest, and the platform of the Democratic Party. In early August, the Clinton campaign even launched the Republican for Hillary effort. Instead of using Trump's unfavorable ratings against the Republican Party, Clinton is embracing its establishment who don't like their party's candidate. This shift should be concerning to all Democrats as it is indicative of the fact that Clinton plans to relive the neoliberal disasters of the first Clinton administration. This is a heavy-duty insight. This is the last thing I'll read to you. Bill Clinton pushed through destructive welfare reform, catalyzed mass incarceration, deregulated the financial industry, and passed NAFTA under the banner of the Democratic Party. A Republican majority in Congress not only will provide President Hillary Clinton with a scapegoat for any flip-flopping or broken campaign promises in office, but will provide her with the support of the establishment in both parties to continue promoting the interests of corporate giants over the public interest, just as she did in the State Department. This is what I've been saying all along. Hillary Clinton presidency is worse than a Trump presidency. Hillary Clinton presidency splits the opposition to her horrible neoliberal, corporate-friendly, anti-worker, pro-war, pro-Wall Street policies, pro-fracking policies. She splits it. If Donald Trump was in there, everyone would rally against him. This is exactly what I've been saying, and this is exactly what guys like Dan Savage says is stupid, and you're crazy. These are the people who can't stand up and scream loud enough. You're supporting her? She's screwing over your own party. She's screwing over anything that's liberal, anything that's progressive. This is a fascist. You worried about Donald Trump? This is her. What is fascism? Fascism is corporations and government coming together for the benefit of corporations at the detriment of their own citizens. This is nuts. And this is happening, and it's being defended by almost every Democrat on television. Everybody at MSNBC's on board. Oh, those lefties at MSNBC, they love her. You can't have Bernie. He's crazy. We got to have someone who guarantees a Republican majority in Congress for decades. And that's what I've been saying. She's the president. Forget about ever getting a Democratic Congress or Senate. Forget it. And she's making sure of it.